Okay, I'm at 558 Coachlight Drive in Edgewood, Kentucky, doing a sanitary lateral inspection for the purchase of a home. Looking for, any structural issues, root intrusion, anything that may be of concern to the buyer. The access point on this is a floor clean out just inside this back door here. And I know from looking at the sewer maps that the sewer main is in the rear, so this will go out the back and tying into the sewer main, probably just on the property line in between the houses. Now I'm going to go, this is cast iron, as you can see, and I'm going to try to go both ways. I'm going to go upstream first, back into the house, and see there probably isn't too much piping here. Based off of the main stack is just here to my, just like to the right of the door, and that carries pretty much all the plumbing from the house. It goes up into a center wall that carries all the bathrooms on the first and second floor, and also the kitchen. So this probably goes back to a floor drain or something, but I'm going to go upstream first, and then which one? Well, getting a bunch of stuff on the front of the camera here. There's some build up, and so we're going to run some water here and try to rinse the camera off. So what I may do is just go ahead and go downstream first, and then we'll see if we can go upstream after that. Because going upstream would only be a few feet, and the main concern is downstream and outside. So we'll go take one. We're going to make one more shot at this. Yeah. Okay, I think we're just going to go downstream first, and then we'll let this run for a minute, and then we'll go upstream. So this comes over and immediately turns to go out. So actually, it may just be, there is water coming through here, so it's just this one stack. I think there's a turn immediately that the stack comes over and turns into this clean out. So we'll just go downstream. So the interior piping is cast iron, which the biggest thing with cast iron is that it does rust, and so essentially you're looking for any broken pipe or holes in the pipe, but you really have no idea of the lifespan of the pipe. They say roughly 75 years from installation, I think, but it can depend on a lot of things, soil condition being one of them. But so you don't know if the line is, how thick the wall of the pipe is. Usually you can go by the condition of the pipe that's above ground and kind of get an idea of how good a shape it's in, but that doesn't, you can't always tell. So what we're looking for mainly is any obvious holes, and we're just checking for functionality. And then as soon as we leave the house here, we're going downstream, and it's going past the foundation, and it switches over into clay. This is a normal material change. In clay, you don't have those issues. Clay can be around. There's a lot of stuff that's been in the ground for 100 years, and as long as you don't have big massive shifts in the ground or anything, it stays in pretty good shape. And the biggest thing we see with
clay is because if you notice there's a connection about every 3 feet is where the pipe sections are only about 3 to 4 feet long, and so you will have there's a lot of opportunity for root intrusion. That's the most common thing we see. But I don't believe there's any major trees in this backyard, so hopefully we don't see anything. And the lens is a little blurry from pushing stuff, so hopefully what we'll do is we'll go all the way out to the main. We'll be sure to rinse the camera off, and then when we pull back, we're not going to be kind of plowing into anything as we push, as we pull back. Usually if we can clean the lens off at the main and then pull back, we can see a lot better. But so far the line looks really good. Spider webs there. That's a pretty good indication that the water level hasn't been very high. You can see the flow line basically on the sides of the pipe, and see that even under really heavy usage it's only getting about half of the height or half the diameter of the pipe. Huh. A little something there. I'm not really sure what that is. It looks like not blocking flow or anything, and I can't tell if that's just a buildup of I'm going to run some water on the way back. It's about 87 feet. It's not obstructing flow at all. I'm just not really sure if that's just a buildup of junk, but we have made it all the way to the main. So we're going to turn the water back on. We'll pull back, and now that's really close to the main, that spot. So it's pretty hard to identify what that was.
It could be a rag. It could just be a buildup of junk if the house is vacant, and so may have been something that was flushed down before they before the last time somebody was in here, and just sitting in the pipe. And so we'll run some water for a minute, let it go, and then make sure that once the water shows up, it's going to take a minute for it to get 90 feet. There we go. Make sure the camera's nice and clean. Stuff going back, and hopefully we get a good image of what that is. Right around 80 feet of the lead, yeah. Like a little bit of roots, but it does not look like active roots. If that's what that is. Might have a little bit of roots there. Getting in at the connections, but it's really hard to see. It's a very small amount, and it's not affecting flow. It'd be pretty hard to get it kind of see, it does look like just a little bit of root intrusion here, about 89, 90 feet. A little bit of root intrusion at a connection. See, it's just barely getting in, if you can see it. It's barely getting in there at the connection, and that's pretty normal, small amount of finger roots. Again, it's not obstructing flow at all. I will mention it on the report, but really it's something that you may want to take a look at in a few years. I'm actually I'll pause the video and I'm going to go get a locate, because I don't believe these roots are even active anymore. They may be from a tree that no longer exists. So I'm going to pause the video and I'm going to locate exactly where this is. Okay, so of course this goes out at an angle, and if you're facing the house and looking past it, in the rear left corner of the yard, right next to the telephone pole, there is a small tree, and that's where these are getting in. So they probably are still active. This is not a heavy amount of roots, and it is within 10 feet of the main. You can see if I'm at 85 feet now, and then it's like right about 91 feet we're in the main. So we're within 5 to 6 feet of the main. So it would be your responsibility to maintain his roots. But there's no hole in the pipe or anything. It's just a little bit of finger roots getting in. It's created a little ball there in the flow line, and some other stuff is caught on it. So these probably are still active. So right now there's not a whole lot you can do as far as cleaning it out immediately. I would recommend a treatment with like Rudex or something, and then maybe once a year. But it would take a while for those tree roots to get to a point where they were causing any backup or anything. So adding a chemical once a year would help. That's roughly $35 or so, I think. May have gone up a little bit, but that's about how much a treatment is if you can get it online. But the main thing is just making sure that this is a very common occurrence, especially with clay pipe, like we mentioned earlier. And so, what was that, about 85 feet, wasn't it? Yeah, 85 feet is where a very minor bit of root intrusion at 85 feet. The rest of the line is beautiful. And so, and that's something that's not immediate. You could, like I said, treat it with some Rudex maybe once a year, and then you can check back, maybe have an inspection done in another 3 to 5 years or so, somewhere in that window, and just to see how active those roots are, and get an idea of what kind of maintenance schedule to keep, because it is a pretty minor amount of roots, but you want to make sure that they're not, filling up the pipe. You don't want to let it go for too long. But structurally, the line looks great. All the connections are nice and tight, and so what happens usually is over time the packing in between those connections breaks down. If there's trees nearby and they just find a little tiny bit of an opening, and the little small finger roots get in there and get food or fertilizer and water all in one place, and they love it. So
That chemical, it'll burn back the roots, but it will not kill the tree. And so you don't have to worry about that. You just want to make sure that it's, cleared so that it doesn't cause any issues in the future. We are back into the cast iron. So I am going to make another attempt to go back upstream, but I think that as soon as I go upstream, the problem is that it turns almost immediately from the stack, and you've got about 4 feet of pipe there. And so if we're unable to go backwards, it's not a whole lot of pipe that we're I think it's because there's an immediate turn, and that's why. So what you can try to do here, I think it's just turning, so it's too quick of a turn. Yep, yeah, you can see it right there. It is dropping in. That's the side of the pipe, and so that's what it is. The line is coming over about 3 or 4 feet and dropping straight into this, and that's why this is a turn. And so we're just not going to be able to inspect that 3 or 4 feet of pipe, but it was flowing freely. Obviously, we tested the fixture, and I had that thing running. The stationary tub goes into the same stack, and we ran that for most of the inspection. But because of that turn, it won't allow the camera to go in and make the turn as immediate as it is, just because of the structure of the pipe. So the line looked great. All the clay all the way out looked wonderful. Had about 85 feet. You have a very minor bit of root intrusion that you do want to pay attention to in the future. Like I mentioned earlier, you could do some root X, and that's a cheap kind of preventative maintenance thing you could do. Putting it down once a year, I think, is that's what they recommend, is that treatment. But you could probably do a little longer with as small as minor as the root intrusion is. But and then maybe have another inspection done in a few years, just to see how fast the roots are growing and if they are an issue, and kind of help you set up a maintenance schedule if it's needed. If you only got to do something once every other year or something. But it's a pretty normal occurrence with clay line. There's probably quite a few of it happening in the surrounding houses here, so not a big deal. But the rest of the line, structurally the line looked great. So it's open and free flowing at the time of inspection. And so that'll end the inspection at 558 Coachlight Drive in Edgewood, Kentucky.